Hello, hello. Welcome to the Story Darlings podcast. I'm Sandra.
And I'm Tera.
Tara, what are we talking about today?
So, we are talking about The Cruel Dark by Bea Northwick, which, okay, I just have to point out, these book covers are fan-freaking-tastic. I love them. They are right up my alley on... I almost bought... So, Sandra put on Instagram, I think? I don't know. Whichever one. I'm not...
That's the only thing I'm really active on.
I'm not
Instagram.
the social media girly of the group here. That some of these books, you can order a signed copy. I went on specifically for the covers to buy one, but I couldn't find them.
So, are you talking about the original covers or this, like, very limited one?
No, the original. Or at least it
They're
looked
both
like it was the
pretty.
original.
Yeah, this one is the
Yes,
original.
those. So, whatever one you put on Instagram, I looked it up. Went to the website and there were no signed copies left or some, I don't know. Maybe I looked in the wrong spot, but I could not find the signed copies. And so help me out, Sandra, because I want some signed copies, if for nothing else than the book covers, because they're gorgeous.
For everyone just wondering what the heck if you're not watching the video version of this, the books are so just the gothic, classic gothic, just luxe kind of look to them. And I did get a signed copy, so I'll link Bee's website below, but I don't know, sometimes she does run out and then has to wait to get more in, so maybe that's what's up. Audiobook is also available and it's done by a man and a woman, so you have both of those.
Okay, so I am a gothic romance, gothic book virgin over here. I've never once read a gothic novel, which feels very wrong for me because it feels very much like that is my wheelhouse.
Yes, you have some gothic romance undertones to you.
Yes, and so I'd never read one, so I thoroughly enjoyed reading a gothic novel.
I know in a previous conversation, we talked about, I think it was our Instagram live stream, and we were talking about spooky movies, scary movies and stuff, and how Tera is not a fan of like the jump scare type of things.
Yeah.
What did you think of, I mean, non-spoiler, what did you think of the spookiness?
I loved the spookiness.
Okay.
Because I think it's a little bit different than a movie because there were some jump scare kind of scenes, but because I was reading it, I was prepared more for it, I think. Because those didn't get to me. I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. So I really, really enjoyed the spookiness of it.
Ooh. So The Cruel Dark is Tera's foray into gothic romance.
Yes.
Bea Northwick, there you go.
Okay, but I'm going to backtrack a little bit because I am also not a waiter. I don't like to wait for information. If I was a person who could do not finish a book, I may have not finished this book if it wasn't for this podcast. Because I was waiting so long. I'm like, please do something. But I would recommend not doing that because the last half of this book, I couldn't finish like fast enough. If you are a person who does not finish books, which is not my personality type, and this feels like that to you, I would recommend finishing it because that second half of this book just really, really did it for me. There was a lot of great pieces that I couldn't stop reading the book.
There were a couple twists, right?
Mm-hmm.
One of them you kind of, or at least I did, suspected strongly. Like as you get to a certain point, you're like, okay, something is weird here. But the other thing, I didn't see that coming. And I was just like, what?
I am really looking forward to the spoiler part of this because there were some things that I did not anticipate happening. And usually I am the one that can pick up on these little things that points you to what's going to happen. And Bea did such a magnificent job making this a mystery throughout. But then when you find it out, there are those little things.
It's very satisfying.
I went back after I got to the last cliff, like the last, I don't know, what's the word for it? The last surprise.
Twist? Yeah.
The last twist, yeah. And went back in my head and tried to figure out if I could have figured this out. And there are some some clues in how people talk as to what's going to happen.
We haven't actually talked about what the book is about yet, but it is a novel, but it's not a super long book at all.
No.
It is kind of that mystery, as Tara said, kind of thrilling book, so it's shorter and it does get to be quicker paced at one point. Romance wise, it's a bit of a slow burn. So if you need something to happen, then that's going to be that, oh, what am I doing? Is anything going to happen anytime soon?
But when it does start happening, it is not a slow burn. It is not. It is
And
all at once.
it was so sensually done, and there's something about that
Mhm.
1920s kind of vibe and this kind of decrepit estate that was just, it was the perfect setting. And so this book follows Mad Millie, or Millicent Foxborough, who she has traumatic amnesia, right? Which is a thing.
Mhm.
There is such a thing as traumatic amnesia. It happens all the time to people who go through really horrible experiences, as a way to cope with that trauma. She is working at a bookshop. You get these little peeks into her home life growing up and what caused that kind of trauma, or so we think as the reader. So she's working at this bookshop. She has this doctor, and he kind of connects her with this job helping this professor at this Willowfield estate, and he's going to pay her very, very
An
handsomely.
ungodly amount of
Ungodly
money.
amount. Like, sign me up. I'll go to a haunted house, live there for free, work under a hot professor, and get paid doing it.
Well, she didn't know he was hot. She assumed
No,
he
she
was
didn't know
old at the
that, but
time.
that was just a bonus, a surprise bonus.
Yeah. She's like, "Oh, hi."
And so this story is set up like she starts, even on the car ride to Willowfield, she thinks she's seeing things, but then she's just having like nightmares of a sort. And it's just kind of that spooky thing. You don't know whether it's kind of like a Celtic folklore or ghosts, like paranormal stuff. You don't know what's going on.
Well, and the ride there, everybody is telling her that this place is haunted, that there are weird things going on, and like she should probably not go. And so I think that that played into her having some of those nightmares from the beginning. And the fact that she also had a sleepwalking disorder from childhood.
In this dedication page, can you read that? Here's to finding ourselves. That's like the central theme of the book, right?
Mhm.
When it comes down to it at the very end, here's to finding ourselves. And that's basically what her journey is. And it's so delicious and well
Mhm.
done for spooky season. But let's jump into spoilers.
Okay. So, okay, can we just talk about the big spoiler at the end?
Yeah, go jump
Okay.
into it. Rip that
Okay,
band-aid.
so ripping the Band-Aid off, we figure out that the traumatic amnesia was not caused by her horrible, horrible childhood and finding her mother and father shot to death, finding out that her father did it, which can we just I know it's bad. I know it's bad. But can we just talk about how much I loved her dad for trying to save her from the torture that her mom put her through
Uh-huh.
and was planning on putting her through?
Ugh, yeah.
Like,
Her mom.
he killed her and then himself so that she wouldn't be able to torture his daughter anymore.
Tara's like, that's my love language.
It
Like,
is. I'm like, dude. Okay, anyway, so that wasn't the spoiler.
no,
But
but
this was not the traumatic event that caused her to lose her memory. And like weirdly enough, that was not the traumatic event, but that is the last thing that she can really remember is finding that and then ending up in this hospital with this traumatic amnesia. And she kept hearing voices of her mom basically telling her she was worthless and she was Mad Millie and she was all of these things because she had a sleepwalking disorder, which doesn't make you crazy, but okay. And so she woke up in this hospital. But the traumatic event that led to that is she almost drowned after being poisoned multiple times.
yes.
And so we go through this book hearing about Mrs. Hughes who went crazy and who died. And so that's why this house had been shut down and is in this state of mid renovations
Yeah.
and is
Just
not very safe and feels very haunted and I don't know, just spooky.
there's a skeleton crew still kind of working there. You have Dr. Hannigan pops in just for Millie's sake. And doesn't he have a relationship with Callum
Yeah,
Hughes?
he was his dad's, like, best friend.
Okay.
But did he give you the creep some too? Because I was looking for the bad guy this whole freaking book, and
Tara, he's the one.
I was giving everybody, like, these sinister motivations, and so there was a point where I gave him I'm like, "Okay, he popped in at a weird time. He keeps popping in every time she is having these nightmare ghosts visiting her kind of things. Like, what's going on with him?" So, yes, I did him, and then I did Callum too, because there was a lot of hints that Callum was the like, especially with the Celtic notes that she kept reading, and then it would go straight to him. I'm like, "Wait, is he going to turn out to be one of these bad fairy people that are sucking women's
Yeah, he
like,
told the changeling story
yeah,
as well.
and then, like, succubus basically that's, the man going
Gankana.
and then he even, like, makes this comment about but at least on the female side, where the female is doing it to men, he's like, "At least they get something out of it," whereas the woman's getting nothing out of it, and I'm like, "Oh,
Mhm.
oh."
I think B did a really good job of painting him as this, sympathetic kind of character, living in this house, picking up the pieces after his wife died. And you see little pieces throughout the estate of clothing and these rooms locked away
Mhm.
upstairs and things like that. So it was obviously a very important relationship to him at some point. But there's just this delicious, sinister kind of
Yeah.
element to him
You're like,
too, and
"Did
she
he?
balanced that really well.
Did he?
Did
Did he?"
he?
Especially when he and Millie are getting together. You don't wanna believe that he did, but it's, like, in the back of your mind that, "Uh-oh, is she getting herself involved with somebody who already murdered their first wife?"
Yeah. Didn't you find his dialogue just fantastic too,
Mhm.
especially in the early scenes where she would just, wander in her nightie like down the hall and then like end up running into him and he would just say a little something like I can't be responsible for if we run into each other again type of thing.
Well, especially after we don't see the love story happen very early. The first thing we see is her reading a note from his wife talking about, their loves making,
Their sex
and
life.
it is very explicit, very, and so she meets him right after she reads this, and yes, his I don't know, I saw him in a different light right after that.
It's just the energy he gives off, right?
Yes, yes.
There was one scene I had like a Sarah J. Maas Throne of Glass moment with Elite and Lorcan.
Mhm.
There was that scene that blacked out where like we didn't get anything of what happened between the two of them, right? And there was the greenhouse scene in this book. I was like, what happened in
Yes.
the greenhouse? Tell me what happened.
Oh, I know what happened in the greenhouse. Callum did.
Callum did. He showed her.
Yes, yes. Um, but so we find out very end of this book that Millie is Mrs. Hughes.
Hmm.
And right before we find out, I was very mad at Callum. Very. Because we see her finding out that everything that Callum had given her and all of, like, the toiletries that she was told she could use,
Hmm.
and the ring, and the clothes, and all of that were Mrs. Hughes. And so, it was very much like he was trying to replace his wife with her,
Hmm.
and especially when you still had these
Yes.
sinister motivations from him, that maybe he did kill his first wife. And now he's trying to replace her with Millie. I was very upset. But then we find out that she is, in fact, Mrs. Hughes.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
And the ghost that has been visiting her is her memories trying to come back in. And it feels very much like a different person when your memories come back after something like that. And
Hmm.
so it wasn't she viewed it as a ghost, but it was really her memories trying to be like, "Hey, you remember this."
Hmm. Which it's still alarming and very disarming too, because there was that first scene, I think, when they were in the room just getting hot and bothered and stuff. And she looks over his shoulder and it's just like lurking, hunched in the corner. I was like, no, the first time I
Yes.
read that.
Yes, it is quite unnerving. Especially for her, I think, because
She's like, "Am
it's
I
2
mad?"
different feelings. 2 different feelings.
Mhm.
Um,
And then it didn't help that you had Felicity that was kind of I
Acting
don't wanna
scared of
yeah,
him.
like, she was kind of cultivating this hysteria
Well,
kind of
but
stuff.
I I took from that she was afraid of letting her know exactly who she was afraid of because of obviously what happened. She was afraid that that was gonna happen, and so she kept just dropping the, like, "He is this, and he is this," "He will kill me for telling you this."
Mhm.
Which great way of doing that because there are 3 he's it could be, right? But you automatically jump to 1 he, and it's the wrong he.
Yeah. There was this other very handsome Rodney, the
Mhm.
gardener, who lives in his little cottage, his little cozy cottage out there, and he was openly flirting with Millicent at every opportunity as well. And didn't he
Even
hear everything that happened in the greenhouse
Yes,
too?
he did.
Like, okay.
'Cause he came out very mad, and Callan was there too, and he pointed out that Rodney has a crush on her, which Rodney did not have a crush on her. Rodney had a crush on Willowfield.
Mm-hmm. He had he was very entitled to
Yes.
Willowfield.
He hated Mrs. Hughes because he, in his head, had it figured out that Callan would marry Felicity, his sister, and then he would get Willowfield, what he believes he deserved because his dad was fired.
Yeah, a really outstanding big bro to Felicity.
Like,
We did learn that he had an affair, though, with a married woman, Margaret, who was friends with Millicent.
Mrs. Hughes. She was not friends with Millicent, like in the story.
They were like dinner party guests, right? Because her
Yeah,
husband was friends with
but
Callum.
Millie had some bad feelings about her after reading another journal entry. She's just nosy, okay?
I would read him too, though.
I would too. I'd be like, I'm going crazy anyway. So she read a journal entry about a seance that Margaret helped Mrs. Hughes with that did not go well. And so I think she had misgivings where Margaret was concerned. And I still have misgivings. Margaret does not seem like an upstanding person.
No.
We did get at the end a little bit more that she was indeed friends with Millie because Millie
Yeah.
is Mrs.
Until she
Hughes.
wasn't. Yeah.
But then also that she wasn't. And so I still don't like her very much. But we do see one of the sweetest things that I read in this book because Millie keeps talking about Mrs. Reeves, who was her childhood cook in her house, the only place that she felt comfortable. I may be reading into this a little much, but Millie, Mrs. Hughes, was brought to Willowfield by the cousin of Mrs. Dillard and introduced because I don't know why, but anyway, that's how she ended up with Mr. Hughes in the first place, right? Was this cousin Mrs. Reeves? Because that is what is living in my mind, that the cousin was Mrs. Reeves. And so when she was talking to Mrs. Dillard, this was one of the first things that gave me a clue that there was something else happening here when I went back and thought about it because Mrs. Dillard the whole time is being standoffish until she mentions Mrs. Reeves and her being a mother figure to her. And then she's like, "Oh, tell me more about her." And
Yeah.
so in my mind, I'm thinking she did that because that was her cousin and she wanted to hear more about Millie's feelings for her cousin.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I just want that to be like, this is the home that she's always wanted and never couldn't remember that she had. And
Yeah.
even when she was going crazy in the first place as Mrs. Hughes, she didn't have that, this is my home, because she was being poisoned.
Yes. The poison from the devil's trumpet, I can't remember the proper name of this flower, is what was making her hallucinate and just kind of agitating all of the
Mhm.
other symptoms that she had previously from her trauma.
Yeah.
I feel like this book was written for the girlies who have very difficult relationships with their mothers. I know my relationship is complex with mine. I know
Mhm.
you have a complex relationship. I felt seen in this book.
I also have some of that traumatic amnesia going on, so I'm like,
You
I can
do,
see
yeah.
how she views things a little bit differently because she doesn't remember things.
Yes, and it makes everyone who kind of agreed to do this ruse in a way because they
Mhm.
didn't want to break something in her
Yes.
mentally, because you don't know how someone with traumatic amnesia is going to react to being
React
told
to.
things about their past. You
Yeah.
don't know.
Or seeing things,
Yes.
um, before they're ready to.
Yeah.
And so again, you get this sinister take to the fact that Mrs. Dillard doesn't want her to really talk to her, doesn't want her in the kitchen, doesn't want her to go up the stairs, doesn't want her to do any of these things that are her rooms from the past. So she wasn't allowed in her bedroom from the past. She wasn't allowed in really any place that would have brought back memories
Yeah.
of her life there.
Not to mention all the miscarriages.
Like the nursery, like she's not allowed in there, which she had those miscarriages because she was getting poisoned. It was killing the babies first. That is so sad.
Yeah.
And then that's driving her even more mad, thinking that she can't give him a family that he so desperately wants. And it's because she's being poisoned little bits at a time. But again, you get like the sinister vibe off of everybody telling her you can't go to these places and to stay out and not talking to her. And when they do talk to her in a very veiled, I'm keeping secrets way.
Mm-hmm.
Even the doctor, who we later find out was one of her doctors and found her in this hospital and knew who she was because he had treated her at Willowfield and been looking for her, basically. You see the scene where she's worried that he's going to figure out that she was in that hospital with him and that she's crazy because he mentions he worked at that hospital. And I think that was him like throwing in a little bit at a time to see how she would react to that. And
Mm-hmm.
she just kept it in because she didn't want him to find out that she was actually there too. And the whole time he knew because he knew
Yeah.
exactly why she was there. I mean, maybe not exactly why, because I don't think he knew who was poisoning her at the time or that she
No.
was being poisoned. Just something
Yeah.
was happening and she needed to get away from Willowfield.
I mean, on top of her getting her happily ever after at the end of it, I was happy that Felicity wasn't dead, because that scene was horrible in the garage.
Mm-hmm.
I thought she was dead. I
I
thought
did
Rodney
too.
killed her. I was like, oh, there's no way.
I
Just
did too.
bam, face into the glass.
But I also loved that even though Millie didn't want to have anything to do with her anymore for the role she played in everything, she did protect her in a sense by helping her not get put in jail forever and helping her kind of set up a life after this because she knew it wasn't her choice.
She was basically a prisoner.
It was like either do this or die yourself. And he proved that he would be very willing to kill her
Oh,
if
yeah.
he didn't get his way.
The first time that I read The Cruel Dark, my only hang up was I was a little frustrated with Callum at the end, because I was like, what were you doing this whole time? All this stuff is going on. What are you thinking? Like, why aren't you there for her? And like being able to anticipate these things that are going on if you've kind of been through this before. I wanted his POV so bad, to know, like, to be in his head, know what he's thinking and where he is, because he is noticeably absent sometimes, just like working
Mhm.
on whatever it is. Which, I mean, that brings me to this book. If you want those questions answered and to get more of the happily ever after for what happens after The Cruel Dark, read this book. It's very short. This is just a novella.
I'm playing devil's advocate here. Because if you're trying not to give her memories too fast and to really freak her out, like him being present all the time is going to bring memories about because he is the primary character in her life while she was there, right? I also think he was trying to figure out what the fuck was going on with his wife, right? Like, why is she all of a sudden doing these things here? Because he does ask multiple times, tell me your secrets, right? I think he's trying to figure out, is there something causing this? Do you have some sort of mental thing other than being killed almost? Because I don't think he figured out from the first time that it was poisoning. I don't think
No.
anybody knew that until this last time when she figured out that it was poisoning. I don't think she figured out that the first time either.
Well,
And so
even she suspected the wrong thing of being poisoned too. Like, she kept thinking
this
it
time,
was the
yeah.
tea. Yeah,
Yeah,
but it
this time.
wasn't.
So I don't think that anybody knew what was actually happening the first time. Even the doctor, I don't think he knew it was poison. I think he thought that there was something going on. In her mind, she already had a problem before she came here. right? She had this sleeping disorder from her childhood, and so many things could cause that. I mean, not that they would have known that at that time, but so
Mhm.
many things could have caused that. So I think he was trying to figure out what was going on, and I don't think he assumed somebody was intentionally harming her. Like I said, I think he thought Rodney had a crush on her, not that Rodney was poisoning her.
Mhm.
Right? So I don't think he thought that she was in any danger, but he's trying to do research and figuring out what
Yeah.
was causing her to slowly go mad in his house, which may have been why some of the things were like cut off and things,
Mm.
because he was trying to keep her out of the spaces that drove her mad in the first place.
Once you get all the pieces together, you do
Hmm.
see how much he loves her and hasn't stopped loving her. He pines after her. Like, there's this red hot, just flaming passion that he still
Hmm.
feels for her. And so you spend the whole book just like being very suspicious of him. And how could you just get over your wife and just
Yes.
start treating this next one the same way? And then you find out it's because it is his wife and he's just biting his tongue and,
Trying not to
trying, yeah,
do
yeah,
damage.
wanting to bring her back to him
Hmm.
without forcing it.
Yes, you have whiplash, I think, in this book. Because yes, while I wanted them together, I thought that they were super cute together. I did have those moments of, "What? How? Why?" And then at the end, you're like, "Oh, okay, okay, I can actually be happy for them.
Mhm.
I can actually like this."
I did enjoy this book. This was a very strong debut. And I
Mhm.
haven't read a lot of gothic romance. Like I've read St. Gibson's A Dowry of Blood, which you would freaking love. If you
Okay.
like really strong, vengeful women
Oh, yes.
and
Uh-huh.
vampires, it's like a Brides of Dracula kind of
Okay.
retelling. Very feminist. I think you would like it. It's down your alley. So if you like this, read that, and then you should read like Belladonna by Adeline Grace if you want more
That's another one that
gothic
you've shown me
romance. Oh my god,
that has such a
yes.
beautiful cover.
Hmm.
I'm discovering I'm a cover person. Like,
We
I
can't help
love
it.
covers. There are some books that I'm like, "I'll just buy you because you have a pretty cover."
You got a pretty face.
Yes. I don't care about your personality, I just want your face.
Or what's inside. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I think if you enjoyed this, you're gonna enjoy these
Because
books too.
I did enjoy this cover so much even while I was in that, like, first 25 to 30% where I was like, "I don't know if I can finish this book." I still went to buy the book because I
Yeah.
loved the cover so much.
I'll look into the signed stuff and see if I can find out more about that for you. She's working on another book.
Okay. Oh. Is it the
Another kind
same
of same kind of vibes, but this one's about a woman who is a curse eater.
a
So I'm like,
curse eater?
ooh, a curse eater. I'm like, I
Like as
don't know
a
what that
curse
means.
breaker kind of thing? Like she
I
eats the
don't know.
curses?
I think it's something darker than that. I don't know.
Ah, okay. So I did also really enjoy from the beginning of this book the mythology that was brought in because
Oh,
again
I knew
that's
you
right up
would.
my alley. I did really enjoy the little snippets of
Mhm.
mythology thrown in there too.
Just really great atmosphere.
Yeah.
This episode, it's going to be what, like October 11th or something,
Mhm.
thereabouts when this
15th?
episode goes. Yeah, or maybe the 15th. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a Tuesday, so.
Perfect time, changing
Mhm.
of the leaves, weather getting chillier.
I also got very Wednesday vibes out of this. Like,
Yeah.
that's what I was picturing when we were coming up to this giant house, the spookiness of the Addams Family house.
I know you're a fan. Uh huh. Which, aren't
So,
we supposed to get a second season of that soon? Because we have to talk about it.
I want a second season, but I don't think anything's been announced.
What?
It's been almost 3 years too since the first season. So
Well, maybe.
I have a feeling we're not because of how long it's been. Jenna Ortega just finished a movie with what's his name? Tim Burton.
Oh, yeah. 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 Yeah.
So
Yeah. I'm a
maybe
big fan.
maybe on that they were talking about a second season, hopefully.
Is this the Beetlejuice thing?
Mhm.
No. Okay, yeah. I like Jenna Ortega and
I
Tim
do
Burton.
too.
Love him.
Yeah.
Can it just be Halloween, like October forever? Because this is
I
literally
love
my
I love
favorite time.
October. I already gave my kids on October 1st their boo baskets.
Tara's that mom.
I love it. I went and picked out some stuff for Carly. She just hurt herself, so I was like, "You deserve a little pick me up." So she got some Bluey toys, which are very spooky, I know. Um, and a cauldron cup so she can drink out of a cauldron.
Listeners out there, I know we have The Stolen Crown by LJ Andrews on the docket for the month of October, but that book has been delayed until sometime
Oh,
next year. So we don't have that anymore. So we have a couple weeks until we talk about what's our next book that we talk about,
well,
maybe.
which one won our book
Oh, that's
club?
it. Oh my gosh. We didn't even like formally talk about it. That was the other thing we needed to
I don't
address.
think I've
Thank you.
heard which one won our book
What?
club.
Tera's not active on
I'm
Instagram, so it's
not.
like anytime voting or any kind of announcement is
I
on
did
Instagram,
vote this
she's
last time.
surprised too.
I'm like, what am I going to be reading? Woohoo.
It was close, but Spark of the Everflame by Penn Cole. So
Okay.
that is our October book club read. You and I can go pick it up on, I think it's available on Kindle Unlimited, the whole series, and start reading. And then we'll talk about that the first week of November.
I did send you a video of a book that I wanted to read on Instagram. The only thing I do on Instagram is send videos to other people. Um, I don't know what it's called. It just seemed like a very book like you just described where the women are the ones that have the power, and I love it.
I'll have to go
I'm
back and
gonna
look at what you sent me.
throw that one in there too,
Between
in the
you and
mix.
David and other people sending me stuff, I can't keep anything straight.
I love you, David, so don't take this the wrong way, but I have not watched the last 20 videos you've sent me in the last 2 days. It doesn't happen. I can't open them in public.
No, not the ones David sends.
And so I forget that he sent me like 20 videos because I can't open them around my kids either.
I'll send you like a, shirtless guy, buff guy thing
I
too.
can
So
open Sandra's though.
I was thinking about it when I was sending you like bad boy kind of shirtless types of
Uh-huh.
stuff. I was like, I hope she's not sitting in like an elementary school classroom or something.
No,
like trying
no.
to teach where they're like pulling this up and seeing it somehow.
No, I'm
Or
not allowed to
hearing
have
it.
my phone in this, so I don't pull up my videos in this.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, we will. I mean, we have 2 or 3 weeks between episodes before Spark of the Everflame, so we'll try and think of something, maybe like a show or a movie or something that we can hop on and talk about. But
I do know Sandra's
shout out.
having lots of opinions about the Vampire Diaries.
Oh yes, I've started watching that. I have like 3 more episodes of season 1. I'm like cranking through them.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like Stefan. He's so meh. Damon, I know he was evil. I know he's evil from the get go and just, cold blooded murdering people, but there's just something about him. Just something
Mm-hmm.
about him. Don't know if it's I think it's just his kind of playful attitude. Like he just doesn't give a shit.
Mm-hmm.
Very, very, very glib about everything. I like
Yeah.
him. Mm-hmm.
I'm not gonna give anything away, but yes.
I'm like, okay.
Yes.
I'm
Damon is the shit, the whole series.
Okay. I'm like, there's so many more seasons still to go, and I've been annoyed with Elena lately. I want her to I want to shake some sense into her because I don't know. For
Get
me,
used to that feeling. Get used to that feeling.
we're not going to turn this into a Vampire Diaries episode because I just want to shit all over Stefan right now and talk about all his red flags. But at least Damon waves his around. He's not hiding his flags; he's flaunting them.
Yes, he is yes.
Tara's just smiling, smirking, kind of like with a little blush.
Wait until you meet Klaus. That's all I'm gonna say. Wait
In
until
this
you
show,
meet.
like Vampire Diaries,
Mm-hmm.
like not the spin-off show. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know there was a spin-off show, but you and
There are
Tessa now
two.
have talked about the other one. Yeah. Oh.
There's the originals, and then the Legacies is a spinoff of the originals.
Okay. Well, my head is spinning.
Oh, I loved the originals. Love it.
Okay. Well, I'll have to watch that.
If you love Damon, wait until you meet Klaus.
All right, guys. Tara has entered her gothic romance, smutty romance era. Hold your butts. All right. Well, we'll hop on at some point, maybe in another Instagram live, and just talk about a fun quickie episode we can do between now and November. Thank you for tuning in. We love talking about The Cruel Dark by Bea Northwick. Definitely pick it up. Visit her website, get a signed copy, read it on KU. Oh, I did want to give that a shout out. So she has a goal of reaching 1 million pages read for The Cruel Dark on Kindle Unlimited by the end of the year. And she's so close. I think she's less than 200,000 pages away. And this book only came out October of last year. Like, this is when it debuted. So it's been out for a year. It's very realistic that she will hit that goal. Pick it up, read it for spooky season, and then just follow her and read, maybe love her in her next book.
And if you have picked it up and you have not finished it because you got stuck in that first 25%, pick it back up. Pick it back up. It is good.
Yes, totally agree. So until next time, we will see you soon. Bye.
Bye.